I'm ready.
He's
Okay.
probably at home picking up on all of your sarcasm.
Thank you. We are reconvening our Kaysville City Council meeting after having been in closed-door session. We are now on agenda item number 14, authorization to mediate bridge settlement. Mr. Scott, would you like to introduce this topic?
We're looking for the ability, as far as staff, to enter into a mediation situation with the other party on the bridge settlement. We have a date scheduled, and it'll be myself, Mr. Thompson, Mr. King from King & King Felshaw, as well as Mr. King's son, Josh King, who is also a trained mediator. We'll be meeting with that other party in a couple of weeks, and we're looking for the ability to legally obligate the city in a settlement on that date.
Okay, thank you. So now is the time for council to ask any clarifying questions. And if there are no clarifying questions, we discussed this in our closed session for some time, about an hour. If there's any clarifying questions, I would be surprised, but I want to open that up to see if there are any. Not hearing any, I think we're done yet. We're not done yet. You're right. I would welcome a motion. I would entertain a motion on the agenda item.
Clarifying questions, but go ahead.
A motion. Anyone care to make a motion?
Yeah. Well, I'll make a motion that we give authorization to mediate our bridge settlement to our staff.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilmember Page to authorize staff to mediate the bridge settlement. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a second by Mr. Garn. Okay, now that we have a motion and a second on the table, it is time for council members to discuss it. So, Maria, if you'll queue up our 5-minute, we will start with Mr. Garn and work this way around the table for discussion.
Yeah, I think I'll just briefly comment that it's been a number of years, long before I served on the council, that this problem has been there, and this gives us the opportunity to hopefully move forward with an agreement and get the repairs made so that the project can be released and then possibly look at 4 lanes across the road. So I think it's important that we move forward, and I support the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garn. Mr. Adams?
Clarifying question, since they weren't granted.
Is
there mediation, so the taxpayers understand on this date we have scheduled, that's it? When we walk away from that meeting, no matter what you described who your team is, you mentioned them just a few minutes ago, when that meeting is closed on that date, whatever that figure is, it's over. The taxpayers either win, lose, or draw, depending on, but that's it. Like, it's official. Whatever you agree to that day.
If we agree to a settlement number.
If and whatever, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If
That's
we
the
agree
end of
to
the
a
line.
number.
Okay.
If.
So there won't be any ability for the taxpayers' representatives to have that knowledge brought back to them before. There won't be a 7-day window per se to where that can be brought back to the taxpayers' representatives. Is that possible in mediations? Can that be done, or?
In this case, we're asking for authorization to be able to mediate on this day because we've got the mediator in place. We have the other party that's going to be there, and then we're going to be there as the city staff. So it's important that we be able to have the power to obligate the city on this day. Normally, if there's a contract or any kind of settlement, the city council would take that action. So that's why we're discussing this tonight, is having the authorization to mediate for the city council is the staff recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I just, my, the threshold of tolerance and pain, I guess, from being someone who's, negotiated a time or two, I guess the threshold of tolerance and pain I find a little discomfort with. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is it possible that it could come back to the taxpayers' representatives, in some form or fashion or another? Because it's kind of us at the end of the day who answer to the people. I guess I'm just to be clear to the taxpayer, I'm just really nervous that there could be a tax burden upon the people. Who knows, right? We don't know. And so, we know this issue's gone on for 7 years. The taxpayers know that, and the taxpayers, can easily go and look at the public information on our attorney bills that we've already paid. So I'm a little nervous that what if we come back and we coupled the taxpayer to a deficit, where we need money for things that were mentioned before in the meeting tonight. We need money for plenty of roadways that are in disdain and unrepair, and we need money for safe walking routes, those kind of things. I'm just a little bit worried, so is there any, I would just like to see that there's an option where it could be brought back so that this, if that's any kind of feeling that you have, that you would concede to the representatives of the taxpayers. I understand your position. You'd like, your team would like that authority to go in that day. But if there were perhaps more clarity, and if there were perhaps a little bit more knowledge of risk factors, that would definitely, help my blood pressure. But as a representative to the tax dollar, I think it's a little bit nervous to do that, and I think I definitely think this council would definitely stand behind, so at any rate, those are some of the concerns. We've already spent a lot of money in litigation, or not in litigation, on attorney fees to be dealing with this for us, and then we've already spent a lot of staff overhead and time on this. So I would hate to see us lose any more when the bridge is not ultimately our problem. So it's a vehicle that's a lemon, in my opinion, and a lemon ought to be fixed by the manufacturer.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
customer.
Adams. Just to be clear, the issue at hand is a settlement with, I guess it's an insurance company that's representing the contractors that built the bridge over 200 North. That has some settlement issues and the side panels buckling and to get those things done. This has been a lengthy process to finger pointing and people placing blame and not placing blame and threatening litigation and not going. This is an opportunity that the staff has now scheduled to meet with a group mediating the transaction to see if a reasonable settlement. This is not something that is going to take money from Kaysville to do. This is basically to decide how much money the insurance and contractors, wherever it comes from, is going to pay Kaysville to complete the project if they're not going to be willing to do it themselves. So there isn't really a dollar out of the pocket of Kaysville City with this transaction. It's basically deciding how much money they are going to pay Kaysville City to make these improvements and to get the bridge up to where it needs to be. Staff is asking for the authorization to go in and mediate. I think it's important to recognize that if the terms of the settlement that are mediated are not in Kaysville City's best interests, that is not binding. It's only binding if we give you the authorization and you sign. That is the only, that's when it becomes binding. As you go through mediation, and if it does not come back favorable to our position, then you can walk away, and I don't know where it goes from there. I don't know if there, I'm sure it must be very difficult to schedule mediation with various parties and try to get that on a calendar, on a date when everybody can agree to it. So I don't know if it goes back to another opportunity to mediate, or if it then basically goes to the litigation route, which would be sad. I don't want it to go, I wouldn't necessarily want it to go the litigation route. I'd just like to get the bridge repaired to the extent that it needs to be, so that we can then take ownership of the bridge, the federal project closes, and we can move forward and do what we need to do with ownership of the bridge. So I am in support of giving you the authorization with that understanding that you're not going to just sign anything, that you'll sign a good deal for Kaysville City.
Okay.
Mr. Page.
A lot's been said. I just think what I want to add, I have confidence in our administration as well as our legal team that's going to be negotiating this. You know, I hope as well that we can come up with an agreement, but if we can't, then, you know, it'll go to litigation. But I think that just a note for the record, every one of these people participating in this are citizens of Kaysville as well. And this has been a long process, and I just hope that we can put it to rest and we can move on. But you know, I'm confident that we'll try to do the best we can.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the council discussion. We have a motion on the table and a second to provide city staff with the authorization to go to mediation and represent Kaysville's best interests at mediation and settle. I will now call for a vote on that. Start with Mr. Page.
Aye.
Aye.
It exceeds my economic thresholds for paying. Nay.
Aye. Motion passes 3-1, and staff is authorized to move forward. Okay. Last item on the agenda is adjournment. I'll welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Councilmember Page. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Garn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.